We have time for one more before we take a quick break. Gubernatorial candidate Mark Lauretti from Shelton, Connecticut.
Well, it's not hard to know there's a lot of energy in this room. You know, there's a lot of things worth fighting for. And I understand that. It's probably the reason why that I got involved in politics a few years ago. I just wanted to take a couple minutes to tell you a little bit about who I am and what drives me and what motivates me to seek this office. I've been a lifelong resident of Connecticut, although sometimes I've deviated. I am a graduate of Ohio University. I got a degree in environmental zoology. I also played basketball. I was out of Ohio University. Spent a short time in Bologna, Italy, where I played professional basketball. And then I moved on to Syracuse University. Now, I know there's a lot of Husky fans there, and I hope that nobody will hold that against me. But I was employed by Jim Boeheim for a few years. It's okay. I've become callous to it over the years. I also got a master's degree in science education when I was at Syracuse. I came back to Connecticut, spent a few years at Central High School in Bridgeport as a science teacher and basketball coach. I was also a personal witness to 3 shootings. I never really got the answer if those guns were legal that those guys had, but in any event, that's the way it is in some places. Opened up my own business in 1984. Owned a family restaurant in Shelton. And if any of you know anything about the restaurant business, it has the highest failure rate of any business that there is in the country. 85% of all restaurants fail in the first year and a half. I'm happy to tell you I'm not part of that statistic. That I survived that for 21 years and then sold that. But during the course of my restaurant ownership, I didn't like what was going on in the country and in the state in terms of government. And rather than be someone that stood on the sidelines and complained about how bad things were and pointed a finger, I decided to become part of the process. And so as I stand here today, I was just re-elected to my 12th term as the mayor of the city of Shelton. And during the course of those now 23 years, we have 22 balanced budgets and 22 budget surpluses. And some people would say, well, Mayor, the law requires you to do that. And to some extent, that would be correct. But I would also encourage those people to look around and tell me how many people are really doing that. And start with your state and federal government. Start with your state and federal government. And then I would tell you that our pensions are fully funded, 100% funded. And that, yes, we do have money, and a sizable amount of money, in our rainy day fund. You know, the rainy day fund, it's called fund balance and surplus. You know, that didn't happen in Shelton because we borrowed money or we used one-time revenues and decided that we weren't going to spend it and, oh, we have a surplus. You know, there's a lot of gimmickry that goes around, and, you know, that only will carry you for so long until you have to stand up and explain yourself. And so, you know, what are the other dynamics about Shelton? There's over 1,500 businesses there, and businesses continue to move into Shelton, unlike the state of Connecticut where businesses move out. On any given day, there are 23,000 to 25,000 people that commute into our city. They commute there to come to work. So we become an employment hub, unlike the state of Connecticut, where unemployment is out of control and above the national average. Our employment numbers continue to grow. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is that because we're responsible in the decisions that we made for the people that we represent. And when you are on the ground floor as a mayor or first selectman, you have direct contact with people every single day. And so you can't pull these shenanigans that go on at the state level. And so, you know, it would be easy to say that, you know, your location is what made it happen. But if anybody knows anything about the lower Naugatuck Valley, We've been a blue-collar community, full of industrial-type jobs for 100 years, until all those jobs have gone away. And now we're transforming ourselves to a corporate community where we have 3.5 million square feet of Class A office space. And we have opportunities for people at many different socioeconomic backgrounds. And so, you know, there are many things wrong with the state of Connecticut today. I think we can all agree. And I know that your focus here is on the Second Amendment, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I think it's important for people to understand that for the success of any community in any state, that you need balance and you need to be able to see the big picture. And that there are times when you cannot accommodate everyone's special interest and you have to be responsible for the greater good. That's what I've tried to do over my tenure as mayor, and I think that I've been pretty successful at it. And you know, no one does this by themselves. I'm not going to stand up here and beat my chest and say, hey, it was all because of me. I have a pretty good supporting cast of people who ideologically think the way I do and understand the importance of being conservative and making your decisions based on facts and then getting results. See, we do a lot of feel-good stuff in government. We see it at the state level, we see it at the federal level. And I think back to the new gun legislation that was passed, and they asked me on Face the State whether or not I would have voted for that. And I told them I wouldn't have voted for that. And then they asked me why. And the reason is simply because I don't believe it would have solved the problem. And then I went on to tell them that, look, there are other underlying factors that come into play here. How about mental health? How about the video game industry? How about TV, the violence on TV? If you think those things don't have an impact on young and fragile minds, I would tell you you're not paying attention. And so, in my mind, there are many things that are wrong and not going in the right direction within our society that affect people's lives. You know, I'm a supporter of the Constitution. I support the Second Amendment. It was said here earlier tonight that Americans fought for the First Amendment, the right to free speech. You know, they fought like hell for it, and they protected it. And try to tell a liberal or someone in the media about First Amendment, and you know, you shouldn't be saying this or that. And boy, they're ready to tear you apart. And so I really think that the same thing has to be done here. I'm one that believes, I mean, there's a lot of issues that we can talk about and discuss about that are not right. Look at education. You know, I think we got to get government out of the classroom.
Yeah.
If you want to affect change in education and get a better result, you've got to strengthen the student, teacher, and parent relationship. And until we do that, we're not going to get the right result. We can keep throwing money at it. We can keep creating programs. We're good at that in this country. But look at what we've evolved to. I want to end with just this quick story. I went to the U.S. Conference of Mayors 3 weeks ago down in D.C., and there were about 320 of us from around the country, and we got invited to the White House, an audience with the President. Well, you know, if you've ever been to the White House, you'd know that it's a very special place, regardless of who resides there. It is the face of America. It has tremendous history, and it's who we are as Americans. And so after the President got done speaking, he did a little Q&A, and I took note of some of the people who were asking the questions, knowing what their political affiliation was and where they resided from around the country. And some mayor from Minneapolis asked the President if there was going to be an opportunity for the Congress to take up gun legislation. And, you know, he was rolling around a little bit like this, and then he finally said, you know, don't think that there's really the political will to do it this time around. You know, it's an election year, and there's going to be a lot of opposition to it. But then he went on to say, which I thought was interesting, that he said, you know, we're going to continue to do the things that we do best, and we're not going to worry about the Congress. You know, if they don't want to do their job, he said, I'm going to try to do my job on behalf of the American people as best I can, and you know, maybe we're going to strengthen the process for doing background checks, and you know, maybe we're going to take a closer look at the mental health issue. And I about fell off my chair when he said that, and I thought to myself, well, is he pandering to someone, or maybe is he starting to get it?
No.
I'll let you decide. But you know, I mean, this is the political game that goes on, and you know, from my standpoint, I'm going to focus on doing the things that I think have brought me success over the course of time. I think I come from a pretty good place in the state that has a pretty good representation of what the face of Connecticut looks like, being from the lower Naugatuck Valley. And so my goal is to focus on the public financing and qualify for that, because without that, it's a non-starter, in my view, and it's an uphill battle for Republicans. So that's what I'm doing. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about who I was and some of the things that I stand for. You know, I try to keep an open mind on a lot of issues. I try to do fact-finding, and I try to base my decision on what is the greater good for the issue in hand and the people that it represents. So I hope this has given you a little bit of insight into who Mark Lauretti is and what my involvement in the government has been, and some of the successes that we've enjoyed down in our part of the state. And I hope that you'll give me some consideration in the future. Thank you very much.